The trials and tribulations of life are inevitable. And while some of us may hurt more than others, building 10-foot brick walls to block out the world only keeps you from seeing the opportunities on the other side. It's easy to hide behind a wall, but it takes real strength to forge an iron gate instead. With a gate, you can deny access to what doesn't serve you while still engaging freely with the world and all it offers. Without my gate, the chaos of the world would destroy me, but with it, my inner world remains protected. I've known people with weak security, walls too short to stop intruders, or fences so low they let anyone climb over. The inner world is left in ruins, but in my world, there's a gate. You pay admittance. I need your papers and documentation. And if you don't have those things and wish to act reckless, I suggest you take that behavior to another person's world where that's tolerated. Here, I shall have peace. Hello and welcome to the Developed and the Dormant, the podcast where I share stories, reflections, and insights to inspire self-development and growth in ourselves and others. I'm your humble yet entertaining host, Daryl Minor. In this episode, I reflect on the art of boundaries and privacy, drawing from my personal viewpoint and the grace of Geishas, traditional Japanese female entertainers known for their mystery, artistry, and the strict custom that guests can only see them by invitation. Just as a geisha only allows select individuals into her world, I'll explore the importance of deciding who gets access to your space, your energy, and your life. We'll delve into why keeping your business private is essential for maintaining peace, and how discerning who's worth your trust can change everything. Are you ready for a seat at the table? But remember, it's invitation only. My mother used to tell me a long time ago when I was in middle school that she was a closed book. And I never understood that, right? Because I used to be a person who in middle school and high school, when I was younger, when I was a teenager, I used to tell everyone my business, right? I used to share so much about myself. And I used to engage with everyone. I used to talk a lot. I wanted to have connections, camaraderie, right? Friendship. I would go and I would tell people the personal details of myself because I felt like that's what builds friendships, right? That's how you build connections, right? You have to open up and share things about yourself in order to find the people who have a similar background, a similar type of upbringing, a similar type of history, right? That's how you build connections. Like, I feel connected to you. But my mother would tell me when she goes to work, she says she's a closed book. She's not telling you everything. She's not telling you all the finer details of her life. She's not telling you this or telling you that. What you ask for, she gives you surface level. And you've really got to prove to her, right, that you're worthy of her time. And I didn't get it. But the older I get, just like all of us should do, right, is as we get older, we start to see the world through adult lenses. Some of us. And when you do that, you start to realize that the world isn't as sweet as you think it is as a child. Sometimes that's a rude awakening. Sometimes some of us are prepared for it. And some of us, it just hits us like a ton of bricks, right? And that's what happened to me, right? It hurts because you try to open up. You try to give people your energy. You try to share in something. But I realized what she was talking about, that not everybody is your friend. Not everybody means you well. Some people are jealous. Some people are spiteful. Some people are reckless. And I understand my mother, and I've taken that to such a deep level, right? But some people, in my situation, you could end up being hurt, and you decide to close the world out. And that's what I see too much of. Too much of. So many people are hurt from that same type of situation of opening up and being vulnerable. And other people take advantage of that. And other people act reckless. And so because they get hurt, they say, I can't deal with the world. But like I keep saying in all of these episodes, if you build up walls and you shut the world out, you will miss every opportunity that could go right. So the key thing, right? Because I make it so clear, it's easy to build walls up and hide, but it takes a level of strength to build a barrier and still face the world. But that takes time, that takes lessons, that takes years, that takes a decision to develop, right? I have taken my mother's idea, which of course is not original. It's not an original concept, but I've taken her mindset. Now that I understand it, I've taken it and I've expanded on it to apply to many other people, to apply to many situations, to navigate through this world, right? I didn't say shut it out. I said navigate through it. And so many people can benefit from this same mindset. It's about a coffee filter. It's about filtering out the contaminants and the things that don't mean you well to filter through for the purest substance that's worthy, right, of you drinking, worthy of your time. But if you have no filter, or better yet, you decide not to drink at all, because I've just been paying so much, I've drank too many things and I've gotten sick, so I'm just not going to drink at all, then you'll never get nourishment. Let's be clear about that. If any of you have watched the movie Memoirs of a Geisha, you get a better understanding of this. But I remember when I first watched that movie, I fell in love, right? It's the idea of who geishas are, right? Now, for those of you who don't know, but you know that I love history, I love culture, I love countries and everything else about the world, right? I think of myself as like these women, right? And if you watch the movie and there's a moment where there's a scene where Mameha and Chiyo or Sayuri, right, where Mameha is explaining what geishas are and what they do. I have found a confidence in myself. I've realized my worth and my value. And I try to, and I see the comparisons to myself and geishas, which are these real entertainers in Japan, right? There is an air and an aura of elegance, beauty, mystery, right? These are women who walk down the streets of Kyoto, right? Japan's old capital. And that is where the liveliness of that culture is, right? Everybody looks at these women like they are stunning. They're beautiful. We want to know who you are. We want to know what you're about. When you walk down these brick pavements, we just see, oh, you're like a celebrity. You're amazing. And we want to be into your world, right? But the thing about it is, even in history, geishas' professions and what they do is renowned. It is respected, right? Because they're not selling their bodies, right? They're selling their craft. They're selling their skills. Why? Because these women know what they stand for. They stand 10 toes down on it. They know their worth and they know their value. They know what they came here to do. And when you see that walking, you appreciate it. You look at it in beauty, right? But when people want to go and be entertained by them, they want to see them, they want to talk to them, right? Because it takes a lot of effort for their skills, right? You want to be a part of that. But not everyone is just welcome to come, right? Let's be clear about that. You cannot just go to a tea house to see a geisha. You can't just walk in there like it's a Ross or a Michael's or a McDonald's. Like, hey, I want to be serviced. Hell no, this ain't a Hooters, right? When you come there, you can only be there by the invitation of the geishas. It's invitation only. And that analogy, dearest, is what we're here to talk about. It's about who is willing to do what it takes to be worthy of coming into your space. The way this world is, the way there are so many personalities, so much toxicity, so much trauma, so much pain, I want you to imagine foreigners that come to Japan, right? We know how Western foreigners are, Americans and, just people from the Western side of the world. We're very loud, we're very rambunctious. And Japan is a very quiet, very settled, very established, very cutesy, very demure type of place, right? Imagine some reckless American comes into a tea house. Hey, how you all doing? This, that, and the third, acting a mess. And there's real situations like that. Would you want that? Do you think that's respectable to come into someone's establishment acting an ass, right? Comparable to how you wouldn't want someone to come into your inner space, your inner world, and ruin and mess everything up, right? What you all need to understand is some people, like I've said, I've learned, right? I've learned not to just give all of myself to everyone. Because when you give some people an inch, they will take a mile. They will feel entitled. They feel like they're okay to do and say some things with you. They don't understand boundaries, or they don't want to respect your boundaries. Here's my thing. That stops at the motherfucking door, right? You don't get a chance to come in here and act an ass and disrupt my peace. That's what I need people to understand. I've always made the analogy that I am a geisha, and my inner world, my literal home, my space, my bedroom, what I do, what I don't like, that is my Okiya. And an Okiya is where geishas live. They train, they mind their business, that's their private place, or the tea house, right? And I imagine spaces, seats at the table, right? There's admittance, right? And you can come in, you can relax, we talk, we laugh, I get to know you, right? Friends, close friends, love interests, family, those people are welcome, right? I've offered you a seat at the table, right? The way I see it is some people are allowed only at the door. Some people can come inside. Some people can come sit down. Some people can get a drink. And the drink that I offer is the same way that geishas offer a cup of tea, which is the equivalent of me giving you love, care, and consideration, right? I've offered you love. But if you choose to act a fool, if you choose to flip the counter, flip the tables, spill the tea, right? And you just acting an ass, you may leave us and you can never come back, right? I'm going to be clear. Everyone is going to take chances. And of course, not everyone means you harm, right? Everybody wants to feel connected. They want to feel a part of something. So if they see you, some people are naturally going to gravitate towards you. Some people are naturally just going to try and make friends, right? I could choose to say, no, I don't want any of you all to come in, right? But I'd be shutting the world out. In the same breath, I also feel like, it takes a level of knowledge. It takes a level of experience. It takes years of self-development and just being self-aware of your surroundings and your environment to decipher who means you harm and who is worthy of your time, right? Because there are many people of many walks of life who want to be in my world, but most of these people are denied because I know, while they may not even intentionally mean to do harm, I know in the long run they will. This is about looking at a person. I'm not saying that you have to judge them and you just know that they're going to do wrong. Like, there should be times when you can decipher and give people a second chance. But it's about examination, right? It's about really looking at the situation, giving it another chance, giving it another evaluation, right? Before just coming to any conclusions. But that doesn't mean to just give up on holding your peace. I'm going to give you all real situations of real people that I have known that have tried to come into the tea house and are denied admittance. There was a time where I was at a job and there was another guy who was interested in me, basically. And he would look and he would stare Eventually, he made it clear that he was interested because he was flirting, said all these things, couldn't be more blunt, right? And I took a chance on, giving him the time of day. Long story short, I regretted it. I felt horrible. I felt like I had given my time and energy to somebody who was just looking for control, someone who was looking to take advantage, to spread some type of malice. Regretted it deeply. Then he has the nerve to talk about we should get together. We should be a couple. We should be a thing. And I can this and I can that. Right? But he had only been out of his last relationship for about a few months. And that last relationship had ended in turmoil, all from his doing and his manipulation, right? I wish I had never given him the time of day, right? So fast forward to another one of my jobs and another situation where another guy is just a staring and a staring and a staring, looking at me, asking me questions. I mean, he makes it blatantly known he's staring at me, right? He asking me, what's your name? What's your this? What's your that? Right? You see that one of my old friends is paying you all the attention in the world. You see that I'm beside her. You feel like, well, if she's open, then you must be open too. So what is your this? How do you that? All of this stuff. But I respond bluntly and barren. Yeah, no, sure, I guess. No contact. You don't make me laugh. You are denied, right? Because I can tell what this is about, right? This is about protecting your peace. Another guy who was a manager at one of my jobs. This one is frivolous. He is spontaneous. Sure, he's a sweetheart. He's kind, right? But when I tell you that I'd rather not share my business, I'd rather not tell you X, Y, and Z, you can't respect that. I see how reckless you are. I see how much of a goofball you are. I see how immature you are, right? I've seen who you are, and I just like to maintain a professional distance. You can't understand that. You try again, you try again. That's like coming to the tea house, knocking on the door. Hey, ridiculous. I said no. You see that I'm going through something. You see my face. I show my emotions on my face. I said, I just rather be alone. Well, how can I fix your problem? You good? You good? You say hello to me. I say, hey, you all right? Just leave me be. Why? Because I know what you'll do. If I give you an inch, you will take a mile, because I share some things with you. Share private moments. And what do I hear? You come back before me and you tell me that you have shared that information with others. I told you to stay out. I'm just grateful it wasn't something on a very deep level, because who knows how far and wide that would have gone, right? When you open up and people see more about you, they feel they can take advantage. They feel they can fix. They feel like they can spread all this stuff. The difference is, dearest, I live in truth and authenticity. So just a side note, you can't harm me with anything that I share. But that still does not mean you have the privilege nor the right to know anything about me. This is what I need for you all to understand. For all of my other queer guys out there, I'm sure you felt it. The way this in the gay community, the way there is so much competition, this cattiness, this stupid, I'm better than you nonsense, right? And I've seen that from myself, right? Some of these guys come before me like, oh, that's another gay guy. Oh, he's one of us. He's one of the quote unquote, one of the girls, right? I hate that term, right? And it's like, oh, he's one of them. So you come before me, you play, you ask me these questions, you do all this stuff, right? Let's be friends, right? The reality is sometimes they do want to be friends. In other situations, you're trying to compete. Who's better? Who's going to get the most attention here? It's like, oh, I need to put dominance. Like I've explained two other guys in two different situations in some past episodes. You do all this stuff for attention, right? And then you feel like, oh, well, what are you about? Let's see, like maybe I can try this with you. It's like you're not allowed. Why? You're reckless, right? If you come before me, you need to come to me with some sense, some sensibility, and a head on your shoulders. We're adults, and what I need for you to do is behave like it. If you want to have anything to do with me, I'm going to need for you to behave like an adult. Otherwise, you can't come in here. Not only that, you can't be at the door. You need to be down the block. And don't even turn your head left or right to look through the windows. You may not come in here because I know when you come in here, you're going to be acting an ass, twerking on tables, tossing cups, acting a fool. We don't do that here, right? I know what you're about. For some of you, sometimes you have to walk out on faith, give people a chance because you never know. Others, when you've experienced so much, you can read a person and know what they're about. It's about giving people one piece at a time. And you can't keep giving chance after chance after chance. I'm going to give you the same analogy that comes from the beginning of this podcast, this episode. Let me make something very clear to you, right? There are people in this world who have their brick walls way too high, as I keep saying. There are people who have no walls. And then there are people who have iron gates. Let me explain something to you. The world is a mess, right? Like I've made that clear, like we all know. And like I said earlier, there's a bunch of different personalities, a bunch of hidden ulterior motives. There's a bunch of nonsense, right? And in this day and age, actually in any day and age, you have to do what it takes to protect your peace. There was a friend that I had, right? One of these friends that I let go. That's, I explained this in another episode. I'm done with her, right? But she is the type of person who does not have walls up, right? Now, of course, she's going through her own pain and her own trauma, right? Which is another reason I can't be surrounded by that. But this is a person who is reckless, who is wild, who is loud. This is a person where she has no walls. You're allowed to go into her world and you can act however you want to act, as loud as you want to act. You can say what you want, do what you want, be yourself. You can do all of these things and have no decorum, no respect. It doesn't matter. You're free to come into her world because she will say whatever to you. She will share these finer details of what happens, right? She will tell managers that she has been to a holding cell. She will tell a random person on the street how many sex toys she has. She will say who she has sex with. She will say what's going on about her bills and her home. That's craziness. Her motto is, I don't care what I say because I know that if it gets repeated, I said it. Now, granted, I have always said, as I keep saying in this podcast, to live in your truth, that nothing, when you get that inside right, nothing can hurt you. But that's not the same for her. Her inside is not right. Her inside is grieving. And when you're grieving, you act recklessly, right? Even if a person is not grieving, even if a person is not going through something, somebody who's just an open book, yeah, whatever you want to know, I can tell you whatever you want to know. That makes no sense. Imagine telling somebody who you don't even know is jealous of you, someone who's secretly plotting to get you fired, someone who's seeking to embarrass you. You're telling them all these finer details about yourself. Why? Because I don't care. I don't care. If I hear it again, I know I said it and I'm going to stand 10 toes down on it. Why though? Because at the end of the day, you look a mess, right? That's like allowing people to come into your world. They've got bombs, they've got firearms, all this stuff. They acting, oh yeah, whatever. They come into your world, they planting stuff, digging up holes, and this stuff, these bombs blow up. Everybody's acting the ass like, oh, that's fine, that's cool, that's whatever, right? But look what they've done to your space, because you have no security. You have no walls. You've just allowed anything into your space. Right? Some of you all can't decipher who's really your friend. And then you want to lie to yourself and allow these people to keep coming back. And you're the one that's being harmed because their world is already a mess and they're making your world a mess. But that's okay. That's cool. Or a bunch of excuses while you continue to rot. But the difference is, what you all should strive to do is, instead of building brick walls, you need an iron gate. Right? It took a while for me to build this gate up. There are moments where that wall was being built, piece by piece, as I was learning more about myself, what I would and would not tolerate. And people every now and then would get over, they would get in. And that's where I would hear bad advice. That's where I would see people getting into my business. That's where people start asking me for all these things. Can you this? Can you that? I don't even know these people well. Right? People, and then they leave a mess in my world. And I say, where did this mess come from? Oh, because these people then found their way into my space. No, we're not going to do that anymore. And this is what I want to make clear to you all. When I say you can't allow people in all the time, or just any person from any background, from any part of life, right? Because when you give them an inch, they will take a mile. When you come before people and you start opening up, or they think you're cool, or you get to laughing and all this stuff, right? Some of these people come before you, they get to feeling like, well, aren't we cool? Can I have a ride? Can you pay for my this? Can you pay for my food? Thanks, girl. All right, thank you, girl. Right? Or people get to feeling like they know you after knowing you for a couple of months. It's like, I feel like I know you, so I'm going to tell you the truth. You don't know me at all, but I'm going to tell you about yourself. And typically people, they feel that they can tell about other people are the people that don't know anything about themselves. But they've come into your world feeling entitled. Well, we're friends, right? Or some people really want to do you harm, right? It's like, oh, well, I can just, I'm pretending to be your friend because I'm getting the benefits from this, right? But you've let me into your world, so I feel like, why would you not want to help me? Why would you not want to pay for my this, right? It's like, you should be able to give me a ride. What? I don't owe you anything. What have you done for me? More so, you've taken more from me than you've given back. And then the more you all give, the more they feel entitled. It's not just about friends. It's about family, right? It's about your extended family, strangers. You all, let's make something very clear. When you give someone a little bit, who knows how far so some people don't have any mindset or any idea of what it means to have boundaries, not just for themselves, but to respect others. That's what this is all really about. And sometimes it's not even about boundaries for the fear or the weariness of disrespect. Sometimes some personalities just don't mesh. Sometimes some friendships are formed out of something that is on a weak foundation. Sometimes you both know you don't really mix well, but I see you all the time. I guess you're cool, so I guess we can be quote unquote friends, right? And it may not even be any harm, but it's like you just don't fit. Whole time you giving this person all this access to your world. And what are they going to do with it? You've allowed somebody in who won't respect it, doesn't know what to do with it, or won't give back to you the way you may be expecting to be given back to. So unlike my old friend, who's a barren world, who allows anybody to just cross into her world, with me, I have an iron gate. I can see you, I can talk to you, and I can still see my opportunities. And there's a potential for you to come in, but you've got to go through that gate. And over there, we have security. You need to pay admittance. I need your papers and I need your documents. You need to show me that you are worth my time. Because if you don't, you may leave us. And if you come in here and show me that you're not worth my time or I made a mistake, you may leave us immediately and you cannot come back. This is about being able to know what is worth your time. This is about being able to know what you are deserving of, right? Don't miss your opportunities. Allow some things to come in, but when somebody shows you who they are, you may leave us. You know what also hurts is sometimes I will offer for people to come into my world. Sometimes they don't request it. Sometimes I offer, would you like to come in? Some people take it, some people don't, right? But the way I see it is, what's meant for you is meant for you. If it's not something that flourishes, if it's not a connection that flourishes, that's all right, right? It's probably for the best. But what hurts is I can see the potential in some people, right? I see the connection we could have. I see how we could grow together. So I allow you to come in, right? There was one of these guys who all I wanted, and I think I mentioned him, all I wanted was a little attention. I valued his friendship. I valued what he had to say. I saw that he wasn't all the way there because I saw he was hurting, depressed, and I felt I could help him through that. So I allowed him into my world, right? But when he got there, despite not having all the documentation, I took a chance and said, you may come in, right? But when you come in, you don't add any value to the space here. I say, hey, well, can you do a little bit of this? No, I just don't think I can. No, right? A million excuses, right? And again, I mentioned this. I'm busy. I gotta work. I'm asleep. It's at some point, those excuses get tired, right? Now I see that I put a chance on you and I brought you into this world. You don't want to add any value, so now you have to go. You don't understand why. You choose not to look at yourself, but it's not for me to explain. You may leave us, right? I'll speak to you through the gate. And if you choose still not to do better, then we don't have to talk at all. You're a bygone era. The other problem is when it comes to having this iron gate that you build up, what comes with that is that people see it. They see how amazing it is. I want you all to look up the gates of the Palace of Versailles in France, right? I want you to imagine that. I want you to even imagine the palace and its elegance. And I want you to imagine how people see that and say, whoa, I want to be inside of that, right? That's the definition of a person who knows their worth and value. They walk around self-assured. They carry themselves like they know what they came here to do, right? So you built something beautiful. People want admission to get in. And when that happens, that equates to people who are curious. When you know your worth and your value, when you stand in your truth, when you know who you are, other people around you are curious. They want to know, how did you do it? How do you have this? Oh, you're amazing. You're this, you're that. All these accolades, right? Just the same way people want to know, what does a geisha look like without her makeup? How do you live? Where do you live? Right? All these things you want to know. Right? And that's the importance of sharing only what you want people to know. Because how do you know that this person, some people are not asking friendly. Some people are not asking to just get to know you. Some people are just simply nosy. Right? When you shine, or you're just simply being, or people notice that there's something different about you, they want to know so much. They ask your opinions. What do you think? How do you feel about so-and-so, right? Or even another person. That's the biggest kicker. How do you feel about so-and-so? You'll never get a bitch like me to open up like that, right? If you offer an opinion about a person, who's to say that person you've told won't go and say something to that very person that you just offered an opinion about? Let's be clear on that. If you say and tell what you do and don't like, what's stopping some people from spreading your business? If you go and tell a person about your dreams and goals, how do you know if that person you told it to doesn't have your best interest and will do whatever they can to stop your growth? Let's be clear about that one. This is the reason why you see some people say, close your mouth. Don't go telling everybody about what you're hoping to achieve. Don't speak that out. Some people want to see you fail, and I'd be surprised myself to know, and this is why I say I wish I could read people's minds sometimes, because I know there are people in my presence who just despise me simply for being great. And some of you have those same haters. Be the people you don't even know, which is why it is not your business to know what goes on in my world. Not everybody is allowed in here. I follow a lot of the quotes from The Crown. A lot of the quotes from that show really speak to how I try to present something strong, right? It's not for presentation. It's not because I want everyone to see me a certain way, right? Because I can't look like, no, this is the authentic me. It reminds me of my morals and my standards. It reminds me to keep boundaries because some people are reckless, right? In season 1, what Queen Mary told to Elizabeth, right? Because there was a problem going on in the country and they instructed her, don't speak on it, right? It didn't feel right for her, right? Because we all have opinions. We all have thoughts that we want to share. You can't share them with everyone, even the people sometimes you think you can share them with, which is why it's so important to figure out and really feel who is for you and who is not, right? Because what Queen Mary said to Elizabeth, people will always want you to smile or agree or frown, and the minute you do, you have declared a position, a point of view, and that is the one thing as sovereign that you are not entitled to do. A person that is open and is an open book is a person that leaves themselves open to attack from everyone and anyone. And again, I had to learn that the hard way because I would share so much with so many people. Later find out this person gonna told that other person, this person said this, they said that. And it got me to thinking, if I can share this, what happens if I share anything else, right? I want to point out another thing. That again, sometimes these situations between people, yourself and other people, is not always out of malice. Again, sometimes it's about you just don't mesh, right? Even though you've given somebody a chance, right? But when it shows that this person just does not mesh with you, and then you have removed them from your life, right? Not necessarily forcefully. It wasn't just a big uproar like, oh, you get security, you have to get out of here. It wasn't like that. It's just like, just escort them out the premises, right? You have to leave. You're not doing anything for me. We don't work well. This is the end, right? But it's like, even in that, I'm not angry with you. I don't have an issue with you. We just don't work. I brought you in, realized you don't work. Now you've got to go, right? And sometimes these people don't understand. Sometimes they wonder what went wrong. But I'm not going to keep explaining myself, nor should some of you. But the thing is, and this is why it's so essential to know not to build walls up that you can't see over and shut everything out, right? Because even though I may be done, right, and I may not want to have anything to do with you anymore, that doesn't stop me from having a conversation. We can still be cordial, right? Some people feel like sometimes, and I know some of you all know this, sometimes people wonder, oh, are they good? Are they cool? Can we be cool again? So they laugh, they put a joke, they say a little something, they ask you a question to see where your head is at, right? I still speak, right? If you make a joke, I'll laugh, right? If you need help, I'll help you, right? It's still good to hold the door, to give thanks, right? Even if I've had an argument with someone and I've said my piece and they said theirs, I still show my kindness, right? But just because I show kindness, that does not mean I want to have anything to do with you. That does not mean I want to be your friend. And that does not mean you are welcome to come back in here. I'm speaking to you through the gate. Let's be clear about that. The other thing I want to point out is that same friend who I said her world was a mess and allows everyone in. When I allowed her into my space, initially she showed me how beneficial she was. We had something that was mutual. But she did that one thing, right? Where she flipped the table And that was the moment, one chance, you got to go, right? But the reality is, I had already seen that because this is what your world looks like, I knew eventually you were going to show me the same type of actions here in my world. And I can't tolerate that, right? So we packed her up. She gave us back the documentation. We sent her on her way, and she cannot come back here. Now she's hurt. She's confused, right? The difference is I do want her to hurt, right? Now you may think that that goes against everything that I'm saying about this podcast, but you haven't heard the rest. And I think I already said this once. I do want her to hurt, but it's not my pleasure to see her hurt. It's that I'm forcing her to address the elephant in the room, to look in the mirror and self-reflect, because you know what you did. We saw what happened. You flipped a table because of your feelings, your emotions got out of whack. You flipped the table and you let all this food and all these liquids and all these drinks and this mess on the floor, then pretended like everything was okay. Out of nowhere. You showed me that this is not the type of, you reminded me what we stand for here in this tea house, on this side of the gate. You've reminded me. You showed me that there's no place for recklessness. If you all want to act an ass, if you want to act belligerent, if you want to act reckless, I suggest you take that behavior over there, somewhere else where that stuff is tolerated. But I don't do that here. And you only get 2 chances. Her first chance was she already showed me who she was. The second one is I didn't want to believe it, but she finally did it. So she has to go. And that's what I need for you all to understand. You can't keep giving people chance after chance. And that applies to anyone, even family, your lover, your partner, your siblings. You only get so many chances. If this is not what we stand for here, if these are the rules and you can't abide by them, you've got to go. And if you're confused and hurt and why did he kick me out? Why am I not allowed? You know what you did. You want to pretend like you forgot. And since you want to pretend like you forgot, that shows me everything I need to know. You may never, ever come back. And this is why I say stand on your morals and your principles. Because some people get to feeling, well, he said these were the rules, but I did it anyway, and he didn't kick me out. So, okay, I did it a second time and didn't kick me out. I did it a third time, he didn't kick me out. Okay, well, this is actually okay. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing, right? And the person will continue. What's to say they won't do it again and again and again? And if you're not going to put this person out, then what are you standing for? Because if I allowed someone like her to stay and didn't have these iron gates up, then another person would feel like, oh, well, this is what he stands for. It's like, it's okay. Then another person, and my world would start to look a lot like hers. Reckless, without order, and no security. This is what I need for you all to understand. And in the reverse, sometimes some people won't let you into their world. And in that case, you either need to look at yourself, which is what I encouraged her to do, or their walls are too high. The difference is, dearest, I'm not climbing a wall. I'll knock once, I'll knock twice. You either lower those walls or open the door. And if you choose not to let me in, that's because you've missed an opportunity that was on the other side. But just like those geishas walk down those streets in their pride, knowing their worth and value, I will continue to walk in greatness.